Welcome back. South Africa's economy has been on a downward spiral since 2009 with a new president and a new team in charge at the ANC. Will things change? And what about contentious policy issues such as land expropriation without compensation? Earlier, I spoke to ANC Head of Economic Transformation, Enoch Godongwane, about these and other issues. Enoch Godongwane, welcome to the show. Let me ask you this first. There are many fights that are going on with between the ANC government and the trade unions. Can I ask you, is the ANC at war with trade unions?
Not at all. We would not be, it's not in the interest of the ANC to be at war with trade unions.
But I will take you to the minimum wage. I'll take you to SAFTU and other trade unions standing up, and NUMSA standing up about the independent power producers. At the moment, government is deadlocked with trade unions on wage negotiations. All these point to a breakdown, if you will, of the relationship that you've built up over years from the time when you were in the trade unions in the 1990s.
I mean, let's first and foremost have a distinction between what we call people as citizens of strikes when it comes to a wage bargaining period. That is itself does not necessarily mean there's infighting between government and the unions. From a government perspective, we've got a 3-year agreement which government is negotiating now with the unions. Other unions as well in their different sectors are also negotiating, which is including the transport strike at the moment. Has got nothing to do with the ANC, but we may have to come to the minimum wage. If I may to come to the minimum wage, you must understand that preferable for government, wages must be set between the unions and the relevant employers. That's basically the architecture of the wage setting in South Africa. Then you will have exceptions. Exceptions are those sectors where the unions and employers cannot set wages, and government come in order to close that gap and provide a bare minimum for those employees in that sector.
So why are trade unions now, trade unions that are some of them aligned to you, saying, actually, you are shifting the goalposts with these new amendments to the labor laws, and that some people will fall below the minimum wage?
That's not true. Let's see, what is the target of the minimum wage? The target of the minimum wage is not those workers who are governed by bargaining agreements at the moment. That's not the target of the minimum wage. The target of the minimum wage are those employees who traditionally have been governed by what is called sectoral determinations, which were done by the minister and so on, in consultation with the minister. The bulk of those employees, about 6 million workers, are going to benefit out of this minimum wage.
So basically what you're telling me, you're just dismissing SAFTU, a new federation that is dead set against these amendments?
Let me just say, it's difficult to distinguish in the language SAFTU uses between a living wage and a minimum wage, okay? SAFTU, in general, the biggest union in SAFTU is not affected at all by this, which is NUMSA. In all its sectors, it sets minimum wages in those industries. It does not, its members are not covered by this agreement.
Why don't you agree, therefore, that, you know what, we'll set this minimum wage at 3,500 instead of removing the 3,500 and saying we'll set it at 20 rand per hour, which means that people who are working 30 hours a week, a month, a day.
Look,
so
I mean, those are issues for the unions could discuss with the minister, but the basic minimum we've agreed upon, the modalities of how that is paid is something different. The basic minimum that has been agreed is 3,500.
Independent power producers, don't you agree that there will be job losses here?
With independent power producers, you'll recall that in 2010, government, after consulting a number of stakeholders, including NGOs and trade unions, agreed on what is called Integrated Resource Plan of 2010. That kind of developed the architecture for the generation mix in South Africa, which included renewables. no one disagreed with that. And as a result, government started, in fact, the ANC has been the one who has been very cautious, uncomfortable with the speed at which this thing has been happening. For instance, you'll know that the ANC even opposed the implementation of the ISMO bill, which was intended to restructure the industry. So we were the ones who were very cautious and said, before we could implement this thing, we've got to look at the implication for the structure of the industry. But the unions that are involved in ESCOM, NUM and NUMSA, accepted the IPPs.
So help me, why there are about 10? These are the same unions.
That's an interesting thing. If you look at the window, we are at window 3-something, which means there's been this thing going on. What has happened is that within their negotiating environment, in my view, I would imagine probably ESCOM has shifted the goalposts. Why you are likely to lose jobs in ESCOM is because of the IPPs. But generally, there's never been an opposition at the introduction of the IPPs by these two unions.
Isn't it perhaps time to therefore allow some people like the SAFTU trade unions into NEDLAC and say, you know what, we're clearly talking at cross purposes here?
For me, I would agree that they should be part of NEDLAC. I mean, I think if they qualify, the qualifications were set by everybody else. I would agree that a significant union such as SAFTU should be part of the NEDLAC process.
Enoch Godongwane, the December conference of the ANC took place. Major policy decisions taken, the key one being the land expropriation without compensation issue. What is the ANC position on this issue exactly? Because now you're being accused by forces like the EFF that you're backtracking on this issue, that no, you don't want to do it and you're not doing it. I
don't know. I heard that Floyd mentioned me by name. I mean, this is the nature of politics that we're going to an election now. There's going to be an election phase where as politicians, we're going to attack to each other. The ANC resolution is quite a detailed resolution. It's not only 2 sentences as people normally quote. But let me deal with the relevant section people deal with. We agreed on expropriation without compensation, without negatively impacting on other sectors, agricultural production and food security. Now, there's a debate about how to give effect to that. That's where we are at the moment as far as the ANC is concerned.
As the ANC, you will approach Parliament and the parliamentary process
that's open parliamentary
and
process.
Say, will you say we want to amend Section 25 of the
Constitution? I can't prejudge that. There's a parliamentary process that is taking place. The ANC has got its own internal process of dealing with that. In particular, on the 19th and 20th of May, the ANC will clarify its position. We're having a workshop, and that workshop is going to make recommendations to the National Executive at the end of May. Whether there will be a need for, that's where Floyd attacks me. I'm saying, I don't know. There are lawyers who say you don't need an amendment to the Constitution to achieve what you're talking about. You can do expropriation without compensation without changing a paragraph in the Constitution. Lawyers will say that. So
are you sympathetic to that view?
Personally, yes, I am. Because I've been convinced by a number of lawyers that I've been talking to. But that's not a decision of the ANC. The National Executive Committee at the end of the month will have to explore options. If there's going to be an amendment in the Constitution, what aspects of the Constitution will be amended? That's a decision the National Executive will have to take.
Does it help your and President Ramaphosa's drive? He's appointed 4 envoys to attract investment into South Africa. Does this debate help your argument to people?
Generally, the investment community wants a clear decision as quick as possible, as far as my understanding is concerned. The sooner we make a decision how we're going to do things, there's clarity, the better for everybody. And that is also going to be assisting the investment promotion strategy.
Has the ANC managed this debate properly? I mean, you look at, on Sunday, Protea Glen, you look at other parts of the country, more and more you're seeing land occupations.
The Sunday thing, I mean, it's not, for me, it's got nothing to do with this debate. It has got to do, it's not the first time when we're going to an election there's land of occupation. There's parties that organizes, go back and look at your records. Whenever we're going to an elections, there are parties who mobilizes and run elections by organizing people to go and build tracks.
So this has nothing? You don't think that what happened in Olivenhout, Bosch, what happened in Hermanus, what happened in other parts of the country?
My sense is that people are mobilized to go and do this thing. People don't wake up all of a sudden and voluntary, unconsciously, they are mobilized to go and occupy a piece of land.
What should government do about this?
We have taken a view in the national in conference that parallel to this process, we should be very effective in stopping illegal occupation of land. We've got to do expropriation without compensation, but in a more orderly way, not people simply occupying land. Same resolution I've got is saying that.
There's another hot potato from that conference, and it was the nationalization, if you will, of the Reserve Bank.
That's an interesting one. For your information is that one is not opposed, not as a matter of principle, is not opposed to nationalization of the Reserve Bank. You must understand that after the war, a number of countries nationalized their central banks. So South Africa's nationalization of the central bank would not be a major problem per se. What is a problem? What is a problem is how do we do it in such a manner that you don't compromise the sovereignty of the country? How? A major driver, I can show you here, a major driver amongst those people who want this thing to be nationalized is a fellow called Mark II, who was a Germany fellow. The reason he wants us to nationalize, he also wants to utilize the bilateral treaty with Germany to force us to have an international tribunal which will give them a better premium in terms of the payment. That's
But at a political level, are you saying this person has influenced people in the ANC?
He has mentioned them by name in an email to the governor.
You are telling me that policy in the ANC has been influenced by one shareholder in Germany?
This guy says he has influenced and mentioned some people by name. I'm saying for us, we would like to take our bank into our own hands, but would not want to do it in a manner that meets his schemes.
And what does that mean?
We're looking at different ways of doing it in such a manner that we don't play into his game.
But there will be movement of those shares to the South African government to be owned by South Africa.
Yeah.
One last question for you. It's been 5 months now since Nasrec. President Ramaphosa is in place. Are you satisfied with the way things are going? You were one of the key critics of capture of state-owned enterprises and so forth.
The interesting thing, I had not yet reflected on President Ramaphosa's performance until I saw a WhatsApp message. There's a WhatsApp message which is circulating. This says, if you look at what this government achieved under President Ramaphosa in the last 3 months, it's impressive. So I'm satisfied.
You don't think the land debate will take away from some of that?
No.
Enoch Godongwane, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
After the break, our winner and loser of the week. Stay with us.